Welcome to another episode of Altitude Advantage. I'm your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez, here in the Broncos studio. Sitting across, as always, is the lead writer on DenverBroncos.com, Aric DiLalla. Week 13, this episode is here to preview this matchup against the Washington Commanders as the Broncos head on the road for Sunday Night Football, with a lot more to get to. We have some comments to get to, as you see. Our lead writer is reading the research packet right now, getting all the stats, organized in his head. We're going to talk about some key signings that the Broncos did and so much more. But as always, on Thursday's episode, we start by hearing from Broncos Country. I know you got some comments lined up for us as we kick off this show.
Yeah, there are going to be some exciting things to talk about here with Malcolm Roach, with Luke Wattenberg signing extensions. We just talked about Will Lutz, and the Broncos front office is busy. But before we get to that, you mentioned the comments. This is from our Monday show when we took a look at the Broncos' key focus after the bye week. Got some comments here from our guy Fishy Fam 19. So thank you, Aric, for bringing up the stat. That stat is that 7 of the 10 times that the Broncos have started 9-2 or better, they've made the Super Bowl. Good stat. Fishy Fam says, I definitely heard that stat, but didn't realize it. Appreciate you again. You are both amazing working together. Let's go Broncos country. DBFL for life. Let's keep stacking those wins. Soto says, my favorite Broncos podcast. Love the dynamic between you two. So many insightful takeaways. We have the best team in the league on and off the field. Go Broncos. Yellow Radio 11. It's an honor to be mentioned again. Y'all are the absolute best. Fishy Fam jumping back in.
Ooh.
I'll make sure to call it the podcast instead of the cast moving forward. Haha. You and Elisa keep up the fantastic podcast. Broncos Country loves it. James Diego 10 says, you're back. It was touch and go for a bit without my weekly fix of Broncos Country. Go Denver. No, we weren't gone that long. I guess it was almost a week.
Yeah, it felt like a long time.
Sad. Had to rest up. We're not going anywhere now.
Happy to be back.
Not going in. We're early today.
Yeah.
Normally people get this on Thursday.
Yeah.
It's Wednesday.
Wednesday.
But here's a tip.
What's up?
If you're with your family and you need to get away, maybe I'm not saying I'm not saying this about me, but maybe this about someone else. If you got the in-laws there, you need to get away. You need to say, just need a minute. I need to reset.
Little me time. That's why we make these episodes so long, so that you guys can.
I have to go attend to a very important work call.
Ooh. Yeah, they tend to be about 45 minutes, the important ones.
Go sit in your car.
Solid.
Put this on. Listen to it. Reset. Laugh. Cry. Feel joy in your heart.
You got to love Thanksgiving.
Be thankful for this podcast because we just got you away from people you don't want to be around for a few minutes.
Solid.
I mean, people they bring up all sorts of crazy stuff on Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving's always like that time where you're grateful that it's only once a year.
I love Thanksgiving. It's perhaps my favorite holiday. A lot of football.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of football.
It is a lot of football.
A lot of good food. Get to be around the family. Which again, maybe you just need a little break, but it's the weather's nice. Normally, I like Thanksgiving. I think it's a top tier holiday, if not the best holiday.
Ooh, see, now I got a question for the comments, and I'm gonna ask you this question too. Is it too early to put up the Christmas tree?
I'm not worried about all that. That's like, is that
some people put it up? Some people already have it up.
Is that always a conversation that people have? Like every year, are people?
Yeah, it's just like when they ask, "Is Die Hard a holiday movie, a Christmas movie?"
Yeah. That comes up a lot too. I'm kind of like, I don't care. I don't care if it's a Christmas movie or not. It's a fun, entertaining movie. I've seen it once. It's good.
One time? You seen Die Hard one time?
I mean, I know it's going to happen now. Why do I need to? It's kind of with thrillers sometimes. Like
you want to throw one time and you're done.
Like once you see that once, no spoilers here. What if we have someone who's never seen it? Yeah. But once you've seen it, once you've seen it. You've seen it once. You don't need to see it again.
That's fair. I never saw that movie. I watched 50 First Dates, and then they spoiled it for me in that movie, and I was like, oh, I guess I don't need to see it. Right, 50 First Dates.
Yeah, really good rom-com.
Sad.
Maybe we'll do like a bonus episode where I just rank the best rom-coms. I could talk for hours about that. But yeah, Thanksgiving is nice, but back in, I don't do it as much here because I'm grown but don't have kids, and so like
we're grown.
But like what?
I said we're grown. Yeah, adult life.
We're in our 30s. When we like when I was a kid, you'd go out, you'd throw the football around, you know?
Yeah.
Like I'm not going out to like throw the football with like my brother-in-law in the street, you know? Like maybe when there's more kids around or like when I was a kid, but kind of in that in between right now. But anyway, there's a lot of nice things about Thanksgiving, but sometimes like, you know, maybe grandma's had like a little too much. She's been overserved and you're like, we need to take a break here.
Gotta love family time.
Go listen to the podcast.
But you know, Thanksgiving, like you said, football, food, and family, can't beat that.
Yeah. So I could talk a lot about Thanksgiving, but we'll get back to the football. Doms says, happy Thanksgiving from my house to yours, Broncos country. Let's bow. Okay.
Solid.
Bill Bell. You know, normally I don't like pre-read these comments. I don't know if that's clear, but I don't.
I think people got that, and that's why they like it.
This one, I read it before. I don't understand it, but I'm going to read it.
Okay.
See if we Bill Bell, our friend, says the Chiefs beat Indianapolis, so they are still the Chiefs, and Denver did beat them. Okay, get that. Mile High Maulers, I love that one. Then they say, is 001 only 1/7 of 007?
Oh.
That's a good question. I thought there was like a naming convention behind those designations for the secret agents or whatever they are. Not secret agents. Spies?
Yeah, like secret agent.
Yeah, I think those are different. Like, it's not like James Bond is not a spy kid.
It's like a super spy.
You were into Spy Kids, huh? You like
was
Spy
not.
Kids?
I was not into Spy Kids, actually.
Okay.
I was into I was into like 007. I used to play 007 GoldenEye, like that game on Nintendo 64 for those youngins that don't even remember that.
Yeah, what?
Do you remember that game?
Yeah, you got a cartridge.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one of those. Anyway, then Bill says, I think maybe this does make sense. It's just a lot of independent thoughts pushed together. 49 in sacks in 11 games puts them on track for the league record in sacks. And then 5 of 5 field goals and extra point by Lutz is elite production. He almost never misses. Knock on wood. Let's keep that going. Okay, we roll on here. Ryan Halifax. Time to get back to it, Broncos country. Beat the Commanders and keep it going. DeAndre Weatherspoon. This defense will lead the way. The turnovers will come. And then kind of the negative comment of the week, from Bo Nix season 10, who this is obviously not the real Bo Nix because the real Bo Nix would love our podcast. Right. But this Bo Nix season 10 says this podcast sucks. Ryan Konsberg would be so much better. Of course, is referring to Ryan Konigsberg, one of our was over at DNVR. First of all, if you're going to blast us and compliment somebody else, at least spell the guy's name right. You don't even give him the respect.
See, the way I look at it is like, I appreciate you listening because you had to listen to it to have an opinion. So shout out for the stream.
That's true. Thank you. Sorry you feel that way. I'm going to continue to do exactly the same thing.
Not sorry.
But I have joy in my heart because it's Thanksgiving. So I'm not going to, I would never say like that this comment is also bad. I wouldn't say that.
I'm thankful for the engagement. I'm thankful for the stream. I'm thankful for,
the hate. So leave a comment on this podcast. We'll read it next week. I'll tell you what, we're going to be sleepy next Monday on the podcast after Sunday Night Football. Be working into the sun might be up by the time I'm done typing.
Yeah.
And but that's what you do. And if it's after a win, there's more work to do, and we'll be happy to do it. So yeah, maybe we'll be delirious reading these comments, but we will be reading them.
Yes.
So we'll talk about football.
So make sure you guys comment, like, subscribe, tell your friends about this podcast, especially at Thanksgiving. You know, just be like, hey, what have you been listening to? Been listening to Altitude Advantage.
Oh yeah, do we even say that? Bad promotion by us.
No, you're gonna listen to it. You know what's not bad promotion? All the amazing signings that the Broncos have been doing, because earlier this week, Will Lutz was signed as he was extended here with the Broncos, and Sean Payne had alluded on the call that they had on Monday that they had reached out to a few other guys to see kind of like how other deals were going to get done. We were unsure on what those names were, and then boom, you have Luke Wattenberg and Malcolm Roach getting extended here with the Broncos. Just another sign of what this team is willing to do to keep this core together. I think those are two key signings, Malcolm Roach being one of those guys you really missed when he was out for a couple of weeks, and then he comes back and this defense just kind of picks up where they left off. Every guy that you've talked to has said how big of an impact Malcolm Roach is, from his communication, his play on the field, and just what he's able to bring to the table. And Luke Wattenberg, what he's been able to produce as well has been really impressive. I think two very key, deserved signings for this Broncos team. I know Broncos country excited to have these guys for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I got a lot of. I think these are a big deal, and like got a lot of thoughts swirling around about these extensions. I think one kind of the big picture thoughts that stand out to me is like these are not the splashy signings that like re-signing a Nick Bonito to the top deal or near the top deal, or like Pat Surtain to the top deal and being one of the highest paid, I think the highest paid defensive player in history when he signed that deal, or that it's not that same type of deal, but in a lot of ways it's just as important because these are key guys. And I think when you look at what they mean from a like the holistic health of the roster, like you have to have those star players, the Surtains, the Bonitos, but you also have to have guys that do their jobs and do them well. And Luke Wattenberg, for example, is a guy that in 400 pass rush snaps this year has not given up a sack. He's one of 2 players in the NFL to have that many pass rush blocks this season and not give up a single sack. He's got the best pressure rate allowed of any center in the league with at least that many snaps. So this is a guy, especially in pass protection, he keeps Bo Nix upright, keeps him healthy. Malcolm Roach is a guy that when you look at the Broncos' run defense 2 years ago, in 2023, they were 30th in the NFL in run defense. Last year, after Roach came in, and it wasn't just him, right? Like they brought in some other guys too, John Franklin Myers. Zach Allen was able to take a step when he got that help around him. DJ Jones, obviously, they re-signed him this offseason as a key piece, but they went from 30th to 3rd last year, and they're 3rd again this year, and 1st in the NFL in yards per rush. And so there's a commitment in Denver to building around the line of scrimmage. We've seen it the last few years in terms of the investment in the offensive line. You sign guys like Mike McGlinchey and Ben Powers in free agency. You extend guys like Quinn Miners, Garrett Bowles, now Luke Wattenberg. And then on the other side, you extend Zach Allen, DJ Jones. Obviously, you acquire John Franklin Myers. You draft at that position. You add Savion Jones in the draft this year. Now you extend Malcolm Roach, who is kind of that under-the-radar guy, but like you said, he's one of those glue guys. He kind of feels like the heartbeat of that defense in a way with his intensity. He's always talking. But these are 2, again, they're not the splashy signings that like a Surtain was, for example, but in some ways they're just as important because they kind of hold things together and they're kind of the glue that makes everything else work. And again, whereas you see teams around the league kind of deal with drama, or maybe they do deals that would not let them do these deals, right? Like if you overextend yourself earlier in the year with Bonito, Sutton, Allen, whoever else, maybe you're not able to get these done, or you let these guys hit free agency and then it becomes more expensive. George Paton and his staff just continue to get these done in an under-the-radar way. There's no drama. You don't even really necessarily know that they're coming. Before, Sean Payton mentioned something on Monday of, hey, we're talking to a couple guys. I don't think anybody would have anticipated that 3 extensions were coming in the span of like 4 days, right? Or 3 days in terms of when they actually signed their contract. So this front office continues to do things the right way. They reward players. With Wattenberg, he's another example of draft, develop, re-sign, keep in the building. Roach is an example of you find a veteran player that fits in your system. You want to keep him around in a way that rewards him, but doesn't break the bank for you. And so I don't know how you look at this as anything other than an overwhelming success for both sides. And this team right now is 9-2. They're doing a lot of great things. They have high aspirations for the future, but those aspirations continue into next year and beyond. And you want to make sure that regardless of what happens this year, you remain competitive next year. And I think nationally there was a thought that like it might take one more year for the Broncos to get to this point. And so, if you can continue to improve next year as well, it bodes well for the future. But part of having that success is not getting to March with 15 guys that you need to find a way to re-sign, because everyone that you get done now makes it a little bit easier when you get to that point. And obviously not everyone's going to come back, and it never works that way in the NFL. But when you can keep some of these guys around now and get it done drama-free, it's a big deal. And these are the type of signings that show to me you've got a really healthy organization, really healthy front office, and a locker room that is in a good spot. And Sean Payton talks about, hey, you got to bring the right guys in. You also got to keep the right guys around. And so to see them reward guys like Luke Wattenberg, Malcolm Roach, happy for those guys. And this is significant.
I agree. I think when you look at what this offensive line has been able to do, protecting Bo Nix, he's one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the NFL this season. When you have a guy that you know is your franchise quarterback, that's when you start building around what's going to protect him, what's going to allow him to be successful. And Sean Payton has talked about the fact of the defense being a big key part of that and how the defense is able to help the offense perform in its overall team effort. And so when you sign guys like Luke Wattenberg and Malcolm Roach, it reminds me of, honestly, the Jonathan Cooper signing. And when we talked about that when he got signed, and we said, this is a clear message to your locker room that if you do things the right way, if you work, if you show that you're buying into the system, you will get rewarded. And that's the message that's going to go down the line. And we saw that with the signings of Nick Bonito and Zach Allen and the lack of drama and the lack of anticipation or guys holding out and things like that. All that was non-existent. I think that's a big thing. And I feel like a lot of guys that signed their contracts, trust was the word that they use, and just trusting George Payton, Sean Payton, trusting that things were going to get done. What they wanted to focus on was winning and playing for each other. And I think when you have these contracts, it shows a good message to future guys, guys that might be in free agency next year or the year after that, thinking, I want to go play for the Broncos because they take care of their guys. And if I go and I produce there, I will get rewarded. And as Will Lutz had mentioned, this is a place that I would like to finish my career. We've heard that through a course of a lot of guys that have talked through the course of the season. I think that's a big emphasis on what this front office is doing and what Sean Payton is doing and the overall success of what this team. Because I think you nailed it by saying, yes, this is all great, and the Broncos are 9-2 and have this great win streak and have a chance to really make a push in the postseason. But this extends farther than this season. This is not just a one-time thing that they're like, okay, if we do it this year, that's enough. It's like, no, this is working. Let's lock in these core guys so that we can continue this year and get even better the following year.
Yeah, and I also want to make one note because, we talk about guys doing it the right way and being rewarded and all that, and that's absolutely true. The nature of the NFL and the salary cap is that you can't re-sign every single player, and there are guys that I'm sure, and I'm not going to speak about this impending free agent class, but there's guys, for example, that did things the right way, and it didn't work out to bring them back. I think back to a guy like Lloyd Cushenberry, who was the last center that the Broncos had before Luke Wattenberg, and he was a great guy. I think everybody in the locker room loved him. But when free agency came around, it was just a price tag that for what the Broncos were able to do at that time, it did not work. And when you see guys then still handle it the right way who might be in that position, it is, I think, just as admirable. And obviously, John Franklin Myers is a guy that is going to be a free agent, and he's discussed his contract. Other guys have discussed his contract, and we'll see kind of how all that pans out. I don't have any kind of information on where the Broncos are with him or any of that. But what I want to highlight is that after Malcolm Roach's deal was announced, one of the first tweets I saw was JFM quote tweeting that news and saying, I'm really happy for my brother.
Yeah.
And he was happy for Zach Allen. And so that, I'm sure he wants a new deal, whether it's here or elsewhere at the end of the year. But for him to kind of have that, despite what he's dealing with, for him to have that presence and that that maturity, I think is pretty cool. So I just wanted to kind of, as we talk about guys who are getting contracts, there are still guys that haven't gotten them yet, and we'll kind of see how all that plays out. But for him to still be that teammate and that guy, I just wanted to acknowledge him there as well.
I think that's important. And I've mentioned this before when people ask me what makes this team so special. It's that. It's literally that camaraderie and that love of the fact of it's definitely we, not me. And that extends deep into a club. And I think when you have a football club that's doing all the right things and has the right guys in the bones, like you mentioned, that's what makes this team so special. As you mentioned, just guys supporting each other regardless of what their personal contract situation is. They're kind of I want to see my teammates be just as successful as I want to see myself be successful. I think that's a big part of what has made the Denver Broncos 9-2 and very successful as they continue to make a push in the AFC. They're currently at the number 2 seed with the Patriots being 10-2 on the season. And now the Broncos have a big test. Sunday Night Football. That's always fun. Primetime lights. I'm really excited for this matchup because, one, Bo Nix plays really well in primetime. He just tends to have that gene that just brings out the best in him. The defense is obviously coming back from a bye week. But the Washington Commanders are also coming off of their own bye week. Their last game was in Spain and Madrid, where they had that loss against the Miami Dolphins. And so I feel like you can't underestimate this matchup. I know that the Commanders have not had the best season. I believe they're on a 6-game losing streak compared to the Broncos that are on a big winning streak. But you cannot take these games lightly. And I feel like we had that same mindset when the Broncos were facing the Jets, and understanding like you cannot underestimate any opponent because sometimes the primetime lights bring the best out of those teams as well.
I mean, I think all you have to do is look at what happened when the Broncos played the Jets, right? Is that was an 0-5 football team, and the Broncos needed to make a crucial play in the final moments to win that football game. And so you've got to be ready to go against the Commanders. As we record this, our understanding is that it sounds like Jaden Daniels is unlikely to play, which makes it seem like Marcus Mariota is up again. And kind of the fact of the matter is their stats have not been all that different this year. The record has been similar. They're averaging a point more per game with Mariota than with Jaden Daniels. The yardage is about the same. Yards per play is higher with Mariota, and the third down percentage is actually higher with Mariota. And then you look at things like passer rating, higher with Mariota, yards per carry, higher with Mariota. I think Mariota probably looks to run a little bit more.
Yeah.
Mariota's completion percentage is higher. And so you can't just say because Jaden Daniels is not there. Marcus Mariota is a guy that started a lot of games in this league. He's shown the ability to have success. And so you got to be ready for him. I just think, yes, they've lost 6 consecutive games and their average margin of defeat is 15 points in those games. But what kind of stands out to me when I look at it is the turnover differential, and that since week 6, during that 0-6 stretch, the Commanders are -8 in the turnover margin. And we go back to Monday with what Sean Payton highlighted as a key is, can you win the turnover battle? Can you get better there? And for as good as Denver's defense has been, and they've been really good, third in scoring defense, they've not forced a lot of turnovers. I think it's tied for the third fewest turnovers, tied for the 5th fewest turnovers. It's right in that range there where I think they've only forced 9 takeaways all year, so fewer than 1 per game. To put games away or to not be locked into these close games that go the whole stretch, and we can talk about the fourth quarter. The Broncos have been really good.
Yeah.
A turnover helps, right? And so can you pick Mariota off? Can you get a strip sack? For as many sacks as the Broncos had, you have this year, you haven't seen the strip sacks necessarily follow. And so that'll be something that I'll be watching of, like, against this offense that could get Terry McLaurin back. It sounded like he's going to practice on Wednesday. They designated Noah Brown for return from IR, another talented receiver who sounds like he's going to practice Wednesday. They could be getting some weapons back. You've got to find a way to hold them in check and make sure that this is a game that, again, I think, like, if you can play, and we'll talk about their defense in a second, if you can play good defense and the Denver offense can operate at its potential, I like the Broncos' chances. But that said, like you mentioned, in prime time, never really know. You're coming off a bye. Will the Broncos be ready to play? They've been hearing how great they are for a couple of weeks, which I think the best thing for that Chiefs game was they heard all week that they can't beat the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
And they came out ready to go.
Yeah.
Now they're going to hear for the last 2 weeks how great they are in terms of, an 8-game winning streak, competing for the top seed. You got to reset and be ready to play a team that is that's going to be hungry. Another thing, kind of big picture, that's worth watching out for is there's supposed to be rain during the game. That kind of makes, to some degree, it can, like, bring things back to the pack. You wonder about how does that impact from a defensive standpoint if the receiver or the quarterback or the running back is cutting and they know where they're cutting and you've got to follow them. In those weather games, I think it always becomes a little bit trickier to gain that footing and keep up with them. So you hope that the weather doesn't kind of condense it and make it closer than it needs to be. But it feels to me like a game that defensively, go out and set the tone early, contain Marcus Mariota and get some turnovers. And then against this Commanders defense, you hope the offense can play to its potential.
Yeah, Marcus Mariota is 1-4 as a Washington starting QB this season. But as you mentioned, like he is a dynamic quarterback that can really attack you with his legs and try to find ways to extend plays. The good thing is the Broncos have seen a lot of quarterbacks like that, and this season have been able to contain them and really kind of get after them. You look for this defense to kind of, as you mentioned, like put that pressure on, because you saw how big that takeaway was against the Chiefs from J-Mac McMillan, where it really kind of was a turning point in that game, or the way he was just able to get after him and make him uncomfortable. But that turnover was really key. And I think, as you mentioned, that's kind of what extends teams for you to pull away and be able to get points on the board, especially when you're playing in different elements, weather, things like that. Reminds me of that Jets game in New York where it was raining the entire game. It wasn't pouring, but like that light, consistent rain did cause some kind of issues in terms of extending or slipping and things like that on both sides of the ball. So that's going to be really interesting to kind of see as you look at this matchup. And I believe the Commanders' defense has allowed 8.9 pass yards per attempt in 2025, which is last in the NFL. You hope that the Broncos can take advantage of that with Cortland Sutton, Troy Franklin, and then R.J. Harvey once again, hopefully getting the ball going. And we'll see how that running game looks again. But I think with Bo Nix in prime time, he just has this, I don't know what it is. He has this thing where those big games don't really faze him very much. We talked about his conversation with Will Lutz that Will Lutz kind of shared, where he said, like, sometimes they look at each other and it's like, are you not having fun? And they're just so tuned into the moment. But these big primetime games, Bo Nix has been able to really excel. Two primetime games so far for the Broncos this season, with a Monday night and a Thursday night. That Monday night game is the one that really stands out to me, where Bo Nix just had a really good game against the Bengals.
Yeah, and he was good in that game. And I think you've seen him be good this year in stretches, and certainly, like, if he plays – this season, in a lot of ways, is going to continue to be about Bo Nix, just because the defense is as good as it's been, and obviously they've got to keep playing at that level. And I think that there's just this expectation that they're going to continue to play at that level because it's what we've seen. But we should also, I think, take a second and recognize that what they're doing is very difficult and historic, and like it takes a significant effort each week to play that way. I mean, they're third in points per game, first in yards per play, pass touchdowns allowed, third down, red zone, all those things. Like, you hope they remain that good, but I also just don't want people to take it for granted because they're playing at a high level. We'll see if Pat Surtain is back, able to return to practice on Wednesday. That's a good sign. As we're recording this, don't know his injury designation, but saw him out there during the media viewing period. But all that said, you've got this great defense, and so then it becomes about the offense, the quarterback. And there's all these stats about, hey, Bo Nix has won despite this. Yeah. And to me, I watch a game like the Chiefs, or against the Chiefs, which was biggest moments, watch a game like the fourth quarter against the Eagles, and it's like you said, he's at his best in those big moments. And would you like him to be a little more consistent? Sure, I think he would say the same thing. And the offense has talked about starting fast and playing more consistent. But all that said, like, if you look at the second-year quarterbacks around the league, if you look at any of the young quarterbacks around the league, consistency and really rising to that level at all is something that many of these quarterbacks have not done at all. Yeah. And so the fact that Bo's able to do it in the big moments against the best teams, two really good defenses like the Eagles, like the Chiefs, that consistency, I think, will continue to progress as he continues to get more and more experience. I know there's like, oh, he's 25 and he's played all these college starts. It's different.
Different in the NFL.
And so this completely is a guy different. That has still played, 28, 29, if you count the postseason NFL games. Like, you're going to continue to see this development. But the fact that he can play at that level is really encouraging. And so if he can find a way to keep playing at that level and especially in the big moments in the fourth quarter, come up with those key drives, those key throws, this team can accomplish what it wants to accomplish. One thing I'll be interested in this particular matchup is, like you mentioned, the Commanders' defense has struggled. Can you get going early and find a way to put some, again, complementary football, but can you put some distance where you score early, you get a stop, maybe a turnover, and get a 2-score lead? Because I think we've talked about you can be as good as you want in these 1-score games, but you don't necessarily want every game to be a one-score game because you're,
Yeah.
as we've heard these guys talk about, you're playing with fire a little bit. But against a team that's 28th in points per game and last in yards per play, opposing pass yards per attempt, passer rating, takeaways, all those things, can you get going? Like you mentioned, the rain could impact that a little bit. I'll be really interested to see, is there some improvement in the run game? Last week was the first week without J.K. Dobbins. R.J. Harvey, Jaleel McLaughlin had a couple of good carries, but I think in general it was a tough day running the football. The Chiefs bring a lot of run pressures. That's part of what they do. They make it difficult running the football on everybody. This week would love to see R.J. Harvey kind of show in Jaleel and Tyler Bidet if he, depending on the work he gets. Would love to see those guys kind of get back to how the Broncos were running the football in previous weeks. And maybe if it is raining, if it is muddy or anything like that, running the football, make these guys tackle you, and find a way to just kind of wear them down. And this is a game where you can't turn the ball over, can't beat yourself with penalties. And I think I said it Monday, starts to be about you and what you do. And if you can be at your best and play your B+, A-, A+ game, you can keep this win streak going. And you've got to be aware of what's at stake in terms of the seeding and all that, but you've also got to be locked into this particular opponent. And so this will be a good sign of one, kind of where's the Broncos' mindset right now after the bye, coming off an 8-game win streak, but also a chance in primetime, like after that Thursday night game. And you don't ever apologize for a win, but certainly the offense wasn't happy with how it played in that primetime game. Can you come out and show the improvement and hopefully get a 9th straight win, keep yourself right there in that race for the number 1 seed? And again, that's just so important, because if you get the bye, it used to be, as we know, like when the Broncos won in 2015, it used to be 2 teams to get a bye. And so it wasn't this huge advantage that it was now. Now one team gets it. One team gets to skip a postseason game. You get to play 2 games at home to hopefully earn a trip to the Super Bowl. I mean, it's such a valuable thing that I think the focus and the leadership won't look past it. And again, that doesn't mean you can't lose, because it's still a talented team, still got to go on the road, still a primetime game. The weather could play an impact. And any team, any week, as we've seen. The Giants almost beat the Lions this week. And I'm sure, if you look around the league, there are a bunch of other games like that.
Or even earlier this season, Miami beat the Bills, and the Bills lost last second to the Texans. I mean, there are certain teams that you expect to have certain performances against certain teams, and it doesn't always play out that way.
Yeah, the Ravens were losing at halftime to the 2-9 Jets this weekend. The Bengals 3-8 had a chance at the end to beat New England, who's 10-2 now. I mean, the Titans lost by 6 to the Seahawks. You look every week, there's these types of games where teams are having to hold on despite the records. And so you still got to go there and do it. And it doesn't mean you're guaranteed a win by any sense. But I don't get the sense, based on the leadership, based on Sean Payton, that this team will overlook that challenge. And you might run into a team that plays better than you that day, but that I think you can get past. It's more, you don't want to overlook a team and lose because you're not ready. We talked from the beginning of the season about, hey, can you win your home games and split on the road? This would get the Broncos pretty high in terms of road wins this season. They'd get to 4-2, which would guarantee at least a split. I mean, they're kind of doing the things that we talked about them needing to do to win the division, but yeah, it's not as glamorous a matchup as if you had Jaden Daniels there. And because it's Bo Nix, Jaden, the top 2 rookie quarterbacks from a year ago, but you still need to find a way to get a win. Don't let the Chiefs or Chargers back in the division race.
Yeah.
Just keep winning and, get closer to your ultimate goal.
Well, because you look at the AFC and you look at who's in the hunt and who's on the outside looking in, they're only separated by 1 or 2 games, 3 games or whatever. So that's what makes these games so much more important. And I think when you mentioned Bo Nix and the fact that it's his second year in the league, I feel like we can't say that enough. Second year in the NFL. You look at what he's been able to do, especially in the fourth quarter, but he has 5 game-winning drives in 2025, tied for most in the NFL, tied for second most in Broncos history. Only Hall of Famer John Elway has more game-winning drives in a season back in 1985 with 6. And Bo Nix has 8 fourth-quarter comebacks in his career, most by a QB in the first 2 seasons all time. And when you look at the other rookie on the other side, which is RJ Harvey, which you also mentioned, hopefully he can have a game, especially with the weather if you have to run the ball. He leads the Broncos with 6 scrimmage TDs in 2025, 2 rushing touchdowns, 4 receiving touchdowns. He has 244 rush yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 28 receptions, 195 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns this season. And so you look at the development of what RJ Harvey has been able to do and really kind of step in and play a big role so far this season. Honestly, you look back to that Cowboys game and what he was able to do and the kind of impact that he's been able to have. I think it's important, especially when you still have Cortland, you still have Troy, you still have Evan Ingram, you still have all these other offensive weapons that you can kind of play off of. But with this offense, I feel like there's just that patience. And I think you said it right by saying you're not going to apologize for wins. And I know that it's not pretty and things like that. But last season, it also wasn't pretty when the Broncos were on the other side of those 1-possession games and were losing, even though they still never had a 3-game losing streak. I believe last year they was just 2 in a row, and then they kind of rectified the ship. So I think it's just a balancing act. You have to continue to be patient, watch the development, and you see that's what this team does. They draft, they develop, and as you mentioned, they extend. And so this is the development part. And so that's the patience that Broncos country needs to have. And I know it's fun, 9-2 and all those things, but trust me, this team is focused and they're looking for that 10th win. I know the defense is going to play a big part in that as they go into this matchup.
Yeah, and this is, I think, offensively where especially if the weather's a little gross, like, can you start to see like what you could be in December, January, like when it gets cold, if the weather's not perfect, like that's where to me like the running game is so important, because you're going to need to, in these playoff games, you might need to grind out the clock or control time of possession. We know the Broncos offense, like off play action, and when you have to account for that as a threat, how much more dangerous it makes this offense, or any offense really. But the Broncos have done that so well for most of the season in terms of running the football. You don't want to lose that just because Dobbins is on IR. And so can you keep that going? Can you keep that identity and find a way to be efficient offensively? And then just, you got 6 games left in the regular season. It's just about finding a way to win each one. And like, it doesn't have to be pretty each week. You don't have to win based on style points, but if you can find a way to win some of these coming down the stretch, I think you're going to be happy with where you end up from a playoff seeding position. And then the real season really starts. But like, as I said, as we came out of the bye week, we've played 11 games. I mean, you're almost 2/3 of the way through the season. Like, we're getting close now to like big boy football. And you got to find a way to win these and keep yourself in the hunt. So it'll be fun to watch. I'm excited to watch them go to Washington, get to play in prime time, hopefully earn another win and keep things rolling.
Yeah, I'm looking at just the way that the Broncos have been winning, and it's like 28-3, 21-17. Then you have a 44-24. I mean, as you mentioned, we talked about, Bo Nix and him being able to excel in these games, his defense being able to come up in big moments like they did against the Chiefs. And now you have the Commanders, the Raiders, the Packers, the Jaguars, the Chiefs, and the Chargers. I feel like those last 2 games are going to be huge, especially depending how those teams fare over the next couple of weeks. But I think with this team, overall, they shine in different areas. And one thing I do want to touch on with the defense, which I actually really enjoyed reading this stat, was like the Broncos defense has 23 sacks on 3rd down in 2025, most in the first 11 games since 1991. And just the dynamic of how many players on this defensive front have sacks. I mean, they have 3 players with 6+ sacks. They have 10 players with 2+ sacks, which is the most in the NFL. Nick Bonito has 9.5, Jonathan Cooper 7.5, Zach Allen 6. I mean, just what they've been able to do, as you mentioned, we cannot stress it enough. Yes, you become almost accustomed to it where it's like, oh, this is just what they do. fair, but that doesn't mean you can't really look into detail of how important this is, especially on third down, getting teams off the field, especially looking at the caliber of quarterbacks that they've been able to play. And as you mentioned, Marcus Mariota, he has a lot of experience in this league, and we've seen him have success. And so you cannot take that lightly. And so I know the Broncos defense is really hungry to get after that, and especially on a primetime stage, show that they're not just numbers, they can produce it on any level.
Yeah, I mean, it's at the point where, and this is bad of me, right? But like, I just kind of, I like almost glaze over the stats about how many sacks they have, because it's like, oh, I've seen every week. They're like, oh, they're on pace for the most sacks in 40 years. And it's like, yeah, I saw that last week. And you almost just
like, who's close to us? Who's close to this? Nobody.
Like, you just get accustomed to seeing it week in and week out.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean it's any less impressive. And probably each week should take more time and be like, dang, it is crazy how many players they have.
Like 2 pages just on the defense.
Zach Allen's on pace to lead the NFL in quarterback hits in back-to-back years. He'd be the first guy since T.J. Watt to do that in back-to-back years. So, again, it's one of those things that like you just take it for granted a little bit in terms of how impressive it is, but they're doing it. And yeah, you mentioned Mariota. Like we said, I think that this is a guy that he's got 61 starts in his career. I think he's won a playoff game. So like he's got that experience. Sorry, almost lost it there. But yeah, he does have in his 5 starts this year, I believe, he's got 5 interceptions. So like you can force him into some turnovers, taking 10 sacks across the 7 games that he's played. And that's what I think it comes down to ultimately in this game is like, get a couple turnovers, avoid the turnovers, see if you can get the run game going. And you know, again, in the rain, it might not be the prettiest performance, but like find a way to make the plays you know you can make it. And this is a game that, and again, you never want to overlook anybody, but like the Broncos should go win this football game. Yeah. And you know, we'll see.
We're going back to your buckets. Remember the buckets you had?
Well, and it's less about the buckets because I think like it's just you're a 9-2 team. You're playing for seeding. This is a game that you should go find a way to get this football game and find a way to win it. And it doesn't have to be, again, like a blowout. It doesn't have to be super pretty, but just find a way to get it done and move on to the next one. And Sean Payton talks about those nameless, faceless opponents. Yeah. This has to be the next one of those and get to 10-2 and keep pace in the AFC and you know, keep it rolling.
Yeah, keep it rolling because, as we mentioned, after Sunday Night Football, they have another road game, and they face the AFC West rival in the Raiders on the road. And then you have the Packers at home, back-to-back home games with the Jaguars coming in after that. And then another primetime game with the Kansas City Chiefs on Christmas, and then closing it all out against the Chargers. So when you look at the AFC, how close each team is in terms of they're just 2-3 games behind, which, you know, we've seen teams make pushes like late in the season. As you mentioned, this is a game that the Broncos should go and take care of to, again, just continue to keep distance between you and everyone else. And obviously looking at the Patriots, who are going to have a tough schedule coming up. They play on Monday Night Football against the Giants. Hopefully the Giants can sneak one there. And they play the Bills, Ravens, and they close it out against the Jets and the Dolphins, which obviously they are not having the right season. But again, you never know. We've seen the Miami Dolphins pull out some very impressive wins against top-tier teams. So it's still it's almost crazy to think that the Broncos are 9-2. They have potential to get their 10th win, and it's still you're unclear how things are going to play out. And I think that's the beauty of the NFL. It's the beauty of the final stretch of the season. And I think it's an exciting time for Broncos country because this is what you want to play for. This is why you want to be 9-2. You want to have something to lose almost because it gives you that added motivation. I know Sunday Night Football is going to bring just excitement. I like Sunday Night Football. Like I mentioned before, the little mini Super Bowls. They always like do all the fireworks and all that good stuff. It's just a fun time. And I know that Sunday, 6:20 p.m. Mountain Time will be the time that the Broncos will head on the field, and excited to see hopefully getting a win on there.
Yeah, and just real quick, if you're looking for who to cheer for, we'll have something up on our website, I believe, but also, you know, Cowboys over Chiefs, certainly. You know, if the Texans beat the Colts, that helps Denver.
Yeah.
You know, if the Bills can, you know, maybe if the Bills beat the Steelers, that at least I think it helps in terms of getting the Broncos closer to guaranteeing a playoff spot that they're close to. Raiders, if they can somehow upset the Chargers, those are all things that would help. And then, of course, Monday night, if the Giants can find a way to knock off the Patriots, that would help as well. So we'll have kind of a longer, more detailed list on DenverBroncos.com like we did last week. But just a quick preview of who to cheer for this weekend as we start coming down the stretch.
I'll be thankful for some key losses.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Well, if you guys want more detailed as we go and break down this matchup, you can check out Broncos HQ on YouTube, where me and the Hall of Famer Steve Atwater break down in more detail this matchup for Sunday Night Football. And you guys can also stay tuned on DenverBroncos.com. But as always, we appreciate you guys listening to another episode of Altitude Advantage. I'm your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez. Across the table, we have our lead writer on DenverBroncos.com, Aric DiLalla. Happy Thanksgiving, Broncos country. We appreciate you guys. We're thankful that you guys are tuning in every single week to listen to us be here and just yap about football. I'm thankful to have that too.
Yeah, so am I.
We'll see you guys next week. And let's hopefully we're going to channel a win on Sunday Night Football.